Thank you. So UGC-centric platforms create massive centers of gravity, right? Potentially exponentially growing faster than studio-only built games. So if you look at incentives like the Roblox generative AI as an example, they theoretically allow players to build an infinite on-platform game experience incentivized by earnings. The challenge that Roblox has, though, is that it's a tightly walled garden, right? So in the end, limiting creators in sort of their expression across assets and also limiting players in their expression of identity and freedom, ultimately hindering economic growth. So this is where really Ubisoft's opportunity comes into play to warp speed the expansion of the creator economy by allowing creators to distribute their assets across games and titles that are support it. So what does that look like, right? As a creator, you can essentially, like, opposed to a Roblox where you would push it to one network and that one only, you can use it to push your assets to the entire pipeline for all the supported Ubisoft or Ubiverse games simultaneously. On the fan side, Ubisoft can retain and graduate players from one play to the other, retaining their status, achievements, and badges, so that you as a player, you grow with the ecosystem. It's a bit different than if you're like playing Roblox. You eventually grow out as a child of that title, so you don't retain and graduate into the next title. But if you can retain parts of your achievements, your badges, you can bring them over to the actual experience that you're going thereafter when you grow up. Of course, not every asset is portable, right? Like your Monopoly game piece, you wouldn't necessarily carry that over to another game. But what if you could take all of your experience that you've gained playing Monopoly to increase your pickpocketing skills in Assassin's Creed, as an example? What if you as a creator could simultaneously push your style as an influencer to get skins across all the entire Ubiverse? And so that can be made possible as an addition with building infinite composable and portable assets, right? So we look at it, if you look at a game, how it worked in the Web 2 sense, you essentially, you have your profile. From your profile, you go into, things like your loadouts, you go further into your assets, you go further into upgrades. Now, what we can do when we actually go into sort of the Web 3 world of things, right, we can infinitely compose and patternize those things further down using standards that are common, such as now the ERC 6055 or the ERC 6059 to get nested tokens across the universe. So together with Ubisoft, props and creators like Restless can bring that thriving creator economy to the entirety of supported Ubisoft games. So as a creator, you can create and sell all of your assets to all of the supported Ubisoft games, and you also gain from that by obviously sharing the revenue as well as the royalty splits on all of the available marketplaces at once. Now, you can also take these and create rare editions, control your rarities, put them across all of your entities, and distribute them in the individual marketplaces as well. The benefits for the players are also sort of groundbreaking, right? Because you can now take your entire identity, you can take your freedom of expression, bring it to all of those assets, and spread it across all of the plays that you actually participate in. And then if you choose to, you can obviously sell, trade them on marketplaces, in-game, or on all of the other supported marketplaces. So let's just have a quick look at what this looks like as an experience. I'm just going to walk over there to show you guys. That sounded like a mic. Thank you. Do you have a secondary microphone? Thank you. So what you see here is with sort of the UGC game-ready asset pipeline that we've built together, you can now go here and select a garment that is provided, and you can go ahead and let's say I want to put the Ubisoft logo on top of this as an asset generation, right? Now let's zoom in a little bit. I can also go ahead and use my creation and put that anywhere on the asset. So I go in here, let's scale it a little bit, so this is on the back pane. So now I have my asset, let's play a little bit around with rotation, give it a little bit of transparency. So now I have created, as a creator, my actual game-ready asset with my creation, with my participation, with all of the glyphs that I want to put on. This is theoretically infinitely scalable. All of the assets are composable and can be put together. Now, if I go ahead and submit the creation, what actually happens is, sorry, I forgot to slot here. Let's remove those slots down here. This one too. And then if I submit my creation, This automatically gets into the generation pipeline behind it in a headless Unity or Blender instance on AWS, gets generated, and the high-quality 3D assets come out at the other end. Now what you can also do is you can automatically push this to a storefront that is infinitely customizable and directly sell those assets on any of the supported chains. So as you can see here, I can go ahead, customize my website as I wanted to, and then actually pop over to the actual sale, go ahead and mint my token. Just switch over to the Guardian network. And mint our creation from here. So what you see here now is that where we've gone from now, from the beginning to the end, is I as a creator could participate in a real game-ready asset pipeline, directly generate and push all of those assets together, create them as a mint, put them up to sale, and create all those automatically royalty splits, revenue distributions, and all the sales for me as a creator, minted out and distributed to all the platforms. We take a little bit of time for the Guardian network here to propagate. There we go. Now you got your final game-ready asset, and I'm just going to jump right to OpenSea to have a look at it. Isn't that great, live demos? Sometimes the network just lets you hang down a little bit. We'll be there. So there we go. This is our game-ready asset. Right? Like I said, we didn't do it on the demo now because the high level of the render pipeline that we've built obviously takes a little bit of time to actually proceed. But this is the end experience that you would be getting. A little bit of a walking back and forth here. I hope you guys are patient enough with me. I just need the clicker. There we go. There we go. All right. So as a next iteration, you can obviously, as a buyer, you can also customize your assets yourself and bring them all together, directly mint them, and get everything so you can put multiple creators together. You might like Nicki Minaj here, you might like that. You put that all together, get your asset in the end. But let's talk a little bit about the architecture and how this works behind the scenes. It is worth noting that this is all live now, so it's all in existence and built, except for one part, which is the LF storage, which I'll be talking about now. So how does this work? So when you create a work order, you actually put in a process that puts the entire work order, so all of the assets that you uploaded, into an AWS pipeline. So it goes to the API gateway on AWS, goes into the Lambda trigger, triggers the EC2 headless Unity or Blender unit, that does the computation asynchronously, puts it back into the asset bucket on S3, creates the metadata from there. Now, when it comes to the metadata, we prefer to serve that first in a Web2 way, so we're not serving it decentralized to get-go because it's just faster to deliver. And let's be honest, when you're playing a game, you want it to be as fast as possible, the access to your games. But should the API ever be down, we have employed a Cloudflare worker in front of here, so you see an edge worker that determines whether or not the API is available. Should the API ever be down for whatever reason that is, it'll automatically fetch the decentralized storage solutions, such as LF as an example, IPFS, CIDs, whatever is the right path of the solution here, puts it back and delivers it to the actual game. On the contract side, the royalty split mechanics essentially have two paths. So you start with two parts. Either it's the user and buyer directly customizing the asset, putting that together, or it's the creator themselves creating the token. I'm just going to talk about the user and buyer customizing asset scenario first. So let's say I'm a buyer, I put all those assets together, I put them in the mint. What we do is we have an off-chain process that takes all of this data together, verifies the actual splits that are correct for the actual parts of the assets that have been contributed for this specific asset, put them in, verify the signature, upset the token, create all of those splits using automated 0x splits, and then later when you do, for example, when you look at royalties, you look at the ERC 2981, it'll look at the royalty split, get all the right data, and automatically distribute the funds across the creators. Now, lastly, just as an honorable mention, what I talked about with the 6551 and the 6059, you can essentially take, you have your core NFT, your core identity, put them in the 6551, as the delegated owner and put your loadout, and from there go infinitely down the path, right? Whether it's your scope, your customized scope, your skin, your influencer skin, everything else down the road. And that's essentially it. So what are the next steps? For us, the next steps is looking at a tighter integration with Oasis. We really want to go deeper into the entire ONFT layer, figure out how do we do the roll-ups across the verses between the hub and the verse layers, and look at the solution like LF to fully get this decentralized storage solution in there. And then obviously we would love to have a first Ubisoft game to bring that solution to market. And that's it. Thank you.
Hello. Right. So yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. Yeah, from AWS. So when I see architecture diagrams, I get very happy. So first question first. Yeah, I have two questions by the way. So I think the first one, I want to check into how are you thinking in terms of driving user traction? How are you thinking in terms of driving active monthly users as well? I'm just trying to stoke your thinking into thinking like, how does this play into season passes, battle passes? How does this play into I would say seasonal gaming offerings? So I mean, because most of our games nowadays are trending towards that, right? So just get your thoughts on that.
That's a great question. So just to split your two questions. So the first question was essentially how are we planning to gain traction with distributing the assets essentially, is that right?
Yes, initially, and then after that, continuously.
Sure. So, I mean, in the end, the marketing driver or how this drives through is through the titles and the games, right? So the benefit is still driven on the actual creator side. What this means is though, from a go-to-market perspective, is going through the creators and influencers. What we've done with the Restless Mints that we've done so far, we've worked, and Restless is a Paris Hilton-backed startup, so we've run through other collaborations with artists like Claire Silver as an example. Kaiko, there's been lots of artists that have pushed their solutions together through that. So one big driver is through their influencer campaigns. Because the interest in supporting all of their schemes and everything and bringing their character into the game is fairly high, also from a demand side on the user side. So that is one sort of go-to-market aspect to that. The other aspect to it is, we hope that the value that it brings by allowing users to really express the identity is another secondary driver for them to actually go through. But I think the primary push is through the influencers and creators that have the gravity to push this solution to the end consumer.
Great, awesome. I can see how this plays into memes as well. So, yep, especially gaming memes. Second question, sorry, that was the first question. So for the second question, right, there's a big issue of copy minting as well. Ideally, of course, I mean, in marketplaces, we would like to keep these assets genuine. Copy minting is also something that I'm seeing across NFT startups, especially the ones that I'm managing in AWS, where they are facing several issues with that and they have to rely on third-party solutions. Have you started thinking about, how do you ensure the genuinity of these assets that's been placed on your marketplace? And, how do you prevent, or rather react towards, copy minting issues?
So I'm not sure I caught the last part of your question.
Yeah, copy minting. So how like, basically the question is like, have you thought about, how this issue might affect your marketplace or the genuinity of the assets, and how do you plan to react?
So you're essentially saying about sort of the creator provenance and securing the
verification. Yeah, it could be the creator, it could be
that.
buyers, sellers who are copy minting as well.
Yeah.
It can happen to anyone, actually.
Yeah, that's a fair question. I don't have a good answer on the spot for you. I'd love to go deeper on sort of how this can be solved on an architectural level. I think part of that is, you have to have some sort of identity verification process, and I'm not saying full, an off-chain KYC process, but I'm saying about wallet legitimacy and kind of building a sort of a ranking system of how much a wallet has a potential of being verified. But we can talk about, there's multiple solutions to the problem, whether it's on or off-chain. I'm not fully sorted on which the right one would be yet.
Understood. So there are several experiments. I'm happy to share with you after this.
That sounds great. Looking forward to that. No question?
Sorry for cutting you guys, but we're already running behind the schedule, so let me...
No worries.
this time. But thanks for giving the presentation. Yeah, give a big applause.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.